use of force by peace officers is judged based on whether or not it is objectively reasonable. It's not a minimum use of force standard. It's not a moment of threat standard. It's none of those things. And the objectively reasonable person, what is a reasonable person? Well, it's not a mythical construct, but it's not incarnate either.
Right.
And when you start to look at what those definitions are or what that really means, what is the reasonable police officer? If you took 100 cops and they were provided with the exact same information that that officer had, the exact same information that he knew about the person, place, people involved, right? His training, what his mission was, kind of that old statement, what did he know and when did he know it? And at the moment that that officer made a decision to use force, what was that other person doing? What did he reasonably perceive the other person was doing? And you take those 100 cops and you ask them, not what would they do, but you ask them, what should a reasonable police officer do in that situation? They're not all going to have the same answer. There's going to be a spectrum of answers. There's going to be a variety of responses, which most reasonable cops would agree are probably a good response to that, right? And so it's easy for us to pluck, this is the one we want, or this is, no, it's not. It's a spectrum. There's probably going to be 5 or 6 alternatives to choose from.
Yeah.
And if you get, you get 60 of those cops out of the 100 to agree on, hey, this is probably what most reasonable cops would have done. Now we have a spectrum of responses. So it doesn't mean it has to be perfect. And that's the other thing that I think a lot of people miss. If nobody hears me say anything else in this podcast, hear me now. Reasonable does not mean perfect,
Right.
because human beings are not perfect. We are flawed individuals, and we are limited by our biology. Okay, we're not robots that can respond instantaneously. You have the whole cognition perception gap, and all that kind of stuff. So it's not about, was it a perfect response? It's not about, was it the right response? It's about, was it a reasonable response? Again, I want to reiterate, based on what that specific officer knew at that exact moment, based on all the information that was available to him or her, and based on the behaviors that they reasonably perceived from the suspect. And let me tell anybody watching, that gets very complicated when you start to drill down into all of that. It's easy for us to look at a video and watch it frame by frame by frame and say that we know what happened out there. And people like to say things like, well, the camera never lies. Camera never lies, Doug. That's true. The camera doesn't lie, but you know what else? The camera doesn't always tell the truth. The camera doesn't tell the whole truth. And so you have to gather as much information as possible from suspects, other suspects potentially. If the suspect is still alive, you interview them, witnesses that were at the scene, multiple cameras, the officers themselves, and then you have to look into, what did this officer know at the time that he or she knew it? It's not a simple analysis. And quite frankly, in my opinion, Lee, I think we're seeing a lot of people who mean well, who are providing their own analyses online, and those analyses are premature and they are incomplete. Here's the other thing that a lot of people don't understand. Making an honest mistake is not a crime.
Right.
And in a tense, uncertain, and rapidly evolving situation, human beings can make imperfect decisions, but in good faith. And that's, go look at Graham B. Connor. That's what that's all about. If you're expecting perfection, you're never going to get it from any organization in which human beings are involved. But yeah, if you happen to know through the course of either your investigation, possibly prior knowledge, certainly while you're grappling with the guy, and you come to the knowledge and realization that he does in fact have a firearm. And now that amplifies things. It does to a certain extent. So now we know the stakes have been raised potentially, and then you feel a certain movement either towards or away from the firearm, and then you're trying to get a grip on it, trying to control this firearm, and then the firearm goes off. If he has his hand on it, it might be reasonable to believe that he either fired it intentionally, or he's getting the gun out of the holster and fires it. Either way, he's got his hand on the gun, and now the gun is in play.
Mm-hmm.
That would certainly lead to a different decision tree
Right.
than if he didn't have one, or if he wasn't going for the gun.
Right.
If you don't believe he's going for the gun, that's
Yeah.
going to lead you in a very different path.
Right. I contend there's not enough information out on that shooting for anyone to have a valid opinion at this point.
I 100% agree with that, and that's another reason why frankly, I've declined to comment on or even like
Hmm.
any comments or
Yeah.
issue any kind of public opinion whatsoever about anybody else's public opinion on it.
Yeah.
Uh, again, there's a thing known as awful but lawful,
Yep.
because again, sometimes even the best of intentions with force look pretty
Hmm.
ugly,
Yep.
and sometimes they are also imperfect. But once you know all of the information that was available to those officers at the time, then you realize, oh my goodness, okay, well, I can sort of understand why they did what they did. I don't like it, but I get it. That could be the case here. I
Yeah.
agree with you. There's not enough information available right now, even with the two different camera angles. There's simply
Hmm.
not enough.
Yeah.
And, I don't, uh, I just think it's reckless for people to be making some of these statements with firm certainty. I think it's also reckless
Yeah.
and inappropriate for government officials to assume that simply because somebody was armed and had a
Hmm.
couple of spare magazines, that alone by itself is an indicator of malicious intent, because it's
Right.
not. It's only an indicator of malicious intent when coupled with or additional information about the person's behavior, statements, a manifest intent by their actions. Then one might be able to come to that conclusion. Thus
Hmm.
far, that kind of information hasn't been made available to the general public, and it probably won't be for some time.